Hello and welcome to my review of the Dell Latitude 7250. The Dell Latitude 7000 series is a premium ultrabook focused to the business side of the market, but does premium also mean flawless? We'll see about that in my full review. So let's damn it. As always, let's start off with the design and build quality, but I want to take a closer look at the ports first. On the left hand side we have the output for the ventilation and the smart card reader. On the front there's not really anything, but front bottom you can see the stereo speakers after all. On the right hand side we have a full-size SD card slot. The nice thing is the whole SD card tucks into it. Here we have a headset jack, USB 3.0, mini DisplayPort and the Kensington lock, but that's not all, because on the back we have gigabit Ethernet, full-size HDMI, USB 3.0, here we have USB 3.0 with power share and the port for the charging. Still not done, because on the bottom you can see the port for the optional desktop dock. Here we have a few more ventilation holes, and the nice thing is the user replaceable battery. Still not done, because here we have 3 status LEDs for battery, SSD and the power itself, and the 3 same LEDs you will also get here on the inside. Quite a nice thing. Let's get to the keyboard now, and this is one thing I really like about this ultrabook, because as you can see here the amount of key travel is quite nice and the feedback is also really great. But one thing I really like to appreciate is how actually quiet it is, as you can maybe hear, because it is not one of those clicky keyboards and it gives you a really nice overall typing experience, and I really like this. I can't really say if I would have been as fast as on the MacBook Pro, because I have the QWERTY layout here, and I usually, since I'm from Germany, have the QWERTZ layout, so I had to get a bit used to it, but it felt definitely great. Typing was a great experience, and I would definitely say it is one of the best keyboards I've ever used. What about the touchpad? The good thing here is you have 2 buttons with a really nice feedback. They are really nice to press. But the touchpad itself is a little bit sticky at times, but therefore it works really great. It did see all my inputs very well, and even multi-touch gestures works, and you have an inbuilt optional settings menu where you can have 3-finger and 4-finger gestures after all. So it does a great job, but it could have been a little bit less sticky, but otherwise great keyboard and still a very good touchpad after all. What else is there to say? Of course, it's obvious the device is built very premium with high quality materials like carbon fiber here and aluminum and magnesium. Otherwise, this device is built to last. It feels very sturdy and very solid. Nothing to complain at all. The only thing that has to be mentioned here is here it sounds a little bit less awesome, and it's also a little bit more heavy and bigger than it should be for a 12.5 incher, because it has pretty much the same width as the MacBook Pro and is only 1 centimeter shorter. But for some reason they managed to make it look and feel smaller, because I was actually surprised when I saw it is 1.54 kilograms and pretty much the same size as my MacBook Pro, because it felt and looked just smaller. So in overall I have to say really nice. One thing I have to complain as always on Dell though, you can't open it with one hand. You will need 2 hands, as you can maybe already see here. But the good thing here is in exchange you can get even past 180 degrees. So in overall this is great. My final thoughts: the amount of ports is awesome. You get more than you usually get. The build quality is absolutely fantastic. Nothing to really complain. Okay, it is a bit bigger and heavier, but I can live with the trade-off for a device that feels so amazing, and this really manages to feel way better than actually my MacBook Pro. The display, specs first, 12.5 inch IPS display with a resolution of 1920 by 1080 and an aspect ratio of 16:9. Overall, I have still to say this is one of the smartest choices you can do, because everything still manages to be very sharp and you don't have to bother about any scaling issues at all, so everything here is fine. As for the maximum and minimum brightness, the minimum brightness in my opinion could be a little bit dimmer. For a few people this could be an issue, for me not. I like it bright, and the brightest setting is at about 90% of the best ones out there, but in sunny daylight the glare will be the issue more anyways. As for the whites, quite nice and pleasant, a little bit on the warmer side, but still very nice for longer times to work on. The blacks, very nice, very deep, you don't lose any details, and especially nice for watching videos. I have a little bit of light leakage here and there, but nothing to really concern, because once the screen is lit up you won't notice it at all. As for the colors, they are vivid, they are vibrant, they are nice to look at, very accurate, really nice, but they aren't really punchy as maybe the one on the MacBook Pro, but still very nice to look at and no problems at all, and overall really great. As for the viewing angles, we have an IPS display, so we don't really have any issues here at all. You will lose a little bit of brightness and contrast, but that's pretty much normal. So in overall I have to say the display is one of the best 1080p ones. If you want something sharper, you have to look elsewhere, but if you are okay with this, it is still great. I have to say personally 12.5 inches and working on a longer time with that was a little bit fatiguing. I prefer 13.3 inches here, but as for the display's qualities itself, undeniable there. Everything is great, brightness, sharpness, top notch, not really anything to complain. A little bit light leakage here and there, but in overall, one of the best 1080p displays after all. I guess the question now is, can the speakers match the quality of the display? The answer right after the demo. Hi guys, today I have a nice Android app tip for you. The app is called AC Display. It is a lock screen replacement app, and even though there are many of those out there, there are several good reasons why this one in particular stands out for me. So my overall thoughts on the speakers. Personally, I'm not that convinced, not really satisfied. First of all, the speaker placement isn't the best. Once on your laps, you will block out all the highs, but not the biggest issue. Let's get to the good things first. Maximum volume was quite convincing, very solid. I didn't have any issues with that. There was also a little bit of bass present, and the mids were really nicely balanced. Same as for the highs, very brilliant and nice, but not sharp, so not fatiguing or anything at all. But the bad thing here are the distortions. I had a lot of them, and especially if you listen or watch videos with not the best quality sound, you will notice a lot of this distortion. And I also noticed once I press down here, the resonances of the chassis will be gone and the distortion will be almost gone. But the thing is, on metal chassis you get these distortions on these resonances quite a lot, and it was particularly noticeable on this. If you have only high quality sound, it won't be a problem, but if you watch a lot of YouTube videos, it will be very obvious, and it can kill quite of the satisfaction of this sound on overall. Let's talk performance now. The SSD quite nice and fast, no problems here at all, nothing to really mention, solid job. As for the Wi-Fi, really fast and better reception than I usually have from other devices, so I just thought it had to be mentioned here. But that's pretty much it for the satisfying part, because we are using an Intel i5 5th generation Broadwell in here, the 5300U, which should provide a great performance, but for some reason, if we can check it here, it didn't convince me just well enough, because as you can see here, this is quite fast, but every time you lift off your finger, you will notice a little bit of an off stutter. It is not that maybe obvious on the camera, but it was quite obvious the more and longer you use the device. Same for here. Internet Explorer is super fast on even low power device, but as you can see here, every time I lift off the finger, there is this small stutter. Same as for here. So it is mostly the touchscreen performance that is hindered. For some reason, maybe there has to be some more optimization left. With the mouse, it was mostly fine. Also with the touchpad, and I didn't have the biggest issues. But I also were never really happy about the overall performance. Everything seemed a little bit bothered by anything. And after the last Windows update, things got even worse, and sometimes just switching a tab to another one became quite a bothersome experience. And using the touchscreen, I can't recommend at all. There has to be something wrong. They have to optimize the drivers, because every time you lift off the finger, you have this odd stutter, and everything always all the time felt the burden down. Same as the overall performance. I used a lot of i5 devices, 4th generation mostly, and they were all fine. But this is one of the first 5th generation devices, and I think maybe they have to do a lot more optimization, because something just isn't right there. I wasn't really happy, and also video editing and everything felt just a little bit more janky than I'm used to it. Otherwise, the performance definitely has to be there, because the components built in are there. But the performance for some reason not quite up there yet. Next thing in line to talk about would be battery life, heat and noise. And numbers out of the way first. 1 hour of charging gets you to about 63%, about slightly over 2 hours gets you to 99%, and 2 hours and 30 and you are at 100. So this means you need about a half hour for the last 1%. I'm not really sure what it is about, and if you see 99 as a full charge, you are at 2 hours, otherwise at 2:30. Not the biggest issue, because the great thing here is the battery life. It is not just one of the best battery lives I've seen so far, because I would say it is even the best battery life I've seen so far. With lower use, just typing and browsing and lightweight tasks, I managed to get to 7 hours or 7.5 hours, and even more with 60% of brightness. So if you go even lower, you can even get higher. With normal mixed usage, I got to about mostly 6 hours, or at least higher 5-hour levels. So absolutely nothing to complain here, and even on harder tasks I would say 3 or 4 hours should be fine. I never use my device 4 hours at a time on maximum performance, so I can say about that. But I can tell you the battery life in overall is absolutely brilliant. As for the heat, also nothing to complain here. It gets a little bit warm here, but not really anything to concern about. But it's the noise level that is a bit of a two-edged sword. Because of the charger, like 80% of the times you won't hear anything besides one thing. There is some coil whine going up on here. And from a distance of about 30 centimeters in a silent room, you will able to hear this. But from a normal distance in a normal environment, it will be practically impossible for you to hear this. But if you are sensitive, maybe be sure to check this first. But as I said, the double-edged sword, the thing is, these 20% when the device is not silent could be the issue, because the fans are a bit whiny and a bit annoying. But just 20% is okay, because most of the time it was silent with lower tasks. If you get a bit higher, of course they will turn on. But the odd thing is, once on the charger, for some reason, and I can explain it why, the fans are almost on at full speed all the time. Even with the same low lightweight tasks, I can't really explain why that is, because then if you are using the device as a desktop machine, it will be quite annoying. This definitely has to be some software thing. They have to fix this in the BIOS with some reason, because why would you need the fans on all the time with the charger when you don't need them while the device is on battery? So this doesn't make any sense. But in overall, great battery life, good heat, and the noise, like I said, a bit odd. You may have noticed it throughout the whole review, I'm not that happy with the software in general. It is not Windows 8.1, that is not the issue, everything there is stable, and usually you have the normal amount of Dell apps, so no problems here. But it's the driver optimization in the background I see to be an issue, because the touchscreen driver was odd, I noticed the stuttering and so on. This should be fixed, and also the fans. They have to be optimized because they are on way too often, so these are things that have to be fixed, because most of the negative things of this device could be fixed with driver things or software things in the background. So Dell, you have to fix this. If you haven't watched the in-depth part, no problem, because it's time for the recap. As for design and build quality, I'm absolutely happy. It feels premium, it feels amazing, and it's very logically and smart designed. No problems here at all. It could be a little bit lighter and a little bit more compact maybe, but I'm okay since it feels so great. As for the display, still a smart solution, 1080p, really high quality display, nothing to complain here. It matches the quality standard of this device. The premium doesn't get matched though in terms of the speakers. They distort way too often, and that was one of the weaker points here. Same as a little bit something of the performance, because the performance in overall is quite okay and it is up on par where it should be, but there are a few certain instances where it just gets janky, a little bit laggy and stuttery. So once again, software optimization is needed. As for battery life, heat and noise, battery life is absolutely brilliant and one of the highlights of this device. The heat is also fine, and the noise in most cases of the charger is completely okay. But on the charger, once again, software optimization thing has to be fixed, because it is just too loud most of the times. Otherwise, software is fine and nothing to complain here. Time for my final words now. Everything about this device screams premium from the outside. It feels great, it looks great. But from the inside, there are a few issues, like the fans, like the touchscreen driver issue, and the speakers. Some of those things can be fixed with the software. The speakers, sadly, I don't think can be. But the thing is, I've noticed a lot of people complain on my reviews on Dell devices that their support just isn't there. They could fix a lot of stuff with software, but it just doesn't happen. So this could be the issue here as well. The device is still quite new, late 2014, so a lot of things could still happen. But if you aren't up to the risk and maybe are afraid to get some of these issues, maybe consider something else. Otherwise, if you don't have the issue with the fans, once that is fixed, with the touchscreen, once that is fixed, and the speaker is no problem for you, this device will be hard to beat, because it also has a fingerprint reader. You get more ports than on any other device, and it will be hard to find a device that looks and feels better and in general behaves better. So in overall, it is very premium and high quality, besides a few a little bit flaws that shouldn't have been. So this was my review of the Dell Latitude 12-7000 series. If you liked it, please rate, comment, subscribe, or do anything else you want to. That's up for me. And if you want to maybe support my channel, you can also help me out on Patreon, but that's it. Otherwise, until next time, I'll be back.